Hey, what's up guys, Alex here, thank you for checking this video and welcome to this quick review about Oxygen app, a pretty new and kind of amazing page builder for WordPress. Quick disclaimer before starting, this is a sponsored review. So the guys from Oxygen app, they contacted me and they asked me if I wanted to review this new product, this new page builder. I said yes because it feels like really good and it just like brings something different from the usual page builder I was used to use. And don't worry, this is gonna be 100% an honest review. I'm not gonna be biased just because it's a sponsored video. They actually, like the guys from Oxygen app, they asked me to be 100% honest and even to say that if I don't like the product, just don't recommend it. So let's see how it goes. First, if you never heard about Oxygen app, this is a new page builder that I wouldn't consider properly like a page builder. It's more like a full theme builder because it has something more than a regular page builder that you just actually use on a page, on a post. You just style the look and feel of a specific section. With Oxygen app, you can actually structure and manage your entire theme. So let's take a look at what I mean. I installed Oxygen app on a test development website, and if you notice, if we open actually the front end of the website, that's how it looks, just pretty completely empty because Oxygen doesn't really care about the theme that you're currently running on because it overrides everything. It just completely overrides the theme that you're using and it just like redirects everything through its own built-in template system. So we need to use Oxygen to pretty much style every page and every section. So first let's create a new page and let's say that I want to use the Oxygen visual editor to customize the homepage. So I set up a new homepage, I set it up as a front page of my theme. If we access it, that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see pretty much like the default stuff of WordPress plus a new section that says, hey, you want to use the Oxygen visual editor? Yes, we do. If you create a new page, by default, you're not going to see it because Oxygen doesn't recognize a page if it's in draft or if it's not actually saved or published. So don't worry if you don't have any page, you create a new one, you don't see that Oxygen, you need to save the page before using the visual editor. But let's access the home page and let's click edit in Visual Editor and everything is gonna change. So the developers as Oxygen recommended to use a caching system to make it quick and make it easier to use. I'm not using it because I decided to use it as like a regular user, not like someone that has a cache plugin or something installed, and I was actually pretty impressed because it's actually pretty snappy. So here we have the add button that is the most obvious thing. If you click on add, we're gonna have this pretty massive list of pre-made components, sections, or just like regular standard HTML markups blocks that we can use to generate our page. We're gonna take a look at this in a moment. Something that I want to show you is the document tree that every time we add an element here, it's going to populate that element. It's going to represent it like it was a layer panel in Photoshop or another design app. That section, it's really, really handy and you're going to see it why when we start building the app. Then we have the button to go back to WordPress, the settings to change the default settings of the page or affect the global settings of our website. By default, gives us the ability to add a font if we want or change the display fonts. So automatically all the most common web fonts that you can grab from Google are already listed there. So that's perfect. What I want to do, I want to pick as a display font, Railway as a text font, Laura, because I really like this matching thing. If I click save, everything is like asynchronously related, so everything is like just not gonna refresh the page, you're not gonna lose anything. And then you can change, of course, the default page settings to have a page width different from the standard 1120, but let's leave it like that for now. We can close the DOM tree and we can close the settings and let's start adding option. To add the option, we could potentially do everything manually like a regular page builder does. You can add section, columns, div blocks, images, paragraph, and all this kind of stuff. The cool thing about Oxygen is you have access to the core of WordPress. So if we access the WordPress section and we click on widgets, we're gonna see all the default type of widgets of WordPress. We have pages, calendar, the archives, we can access the recent posts and all this kind of stuff. So let's start building our homepage with the default fundamentals elements of Oxygen. So first, the thing that we have to do before adding anything is adding a section. By adding a section, automatically our element is going to be put there, and if we select the section, we can edit a bunch of things in the top bar, just like really regular stuff, or we can click more and expand the drop down to pretty much control everything that you could do via CSS. So let's extend the page width container to full width, and I want to click background, add an image, browse. Automatically the built-in media uploader of WordPress is gonna get open. That's pretty fantastic. Let's add this image because I like it. Let's add an overlay color to the image. That's pretty handy. So black with an opacity of 20%. Perfect. Position and size, margin and padding. We have full control of all the regular CSS attributes that we could have. So let's say that I want a padding to apply to bottom and top of 80 pixels, and then I want a margin bottom of 80 pixels as well. I'm gonna create a pretty big spacey area. Position is fine, size is fine. We can get a max width, it's pretty fantastic. We can define the generic type of style of typography for the entire section, or we could go by single styling every element that we have inside this container, but this is pretty handy. So let's keep adding things. One thing that you have to notice that if you have a section selected and you click add and you click whatever, for example, an H heading tag, like an H1, automatically the H1 is gonna get added inside the element that you currently have selected. So be aware of that. Of course, thanks to the DOM tree, if you want something to move it, like you don't want inside, you can just drag and drop it and you organize. You want the heading on top, like above the element that you just created or indented inside, you can totally do it. These DOM tree of like having all your HTML sections managed like a layer panel, it's super handy. So I'm pretty happy about it. Let's style this layer title with just the front panel of the visual editor of Oxygen app. So we can select the title, open more, change the weight. I want to do something really cool. Let's select actually these and put everything central line. So all the elements will be central line. I want the entire section color to be white. As you can see, I'm quickly clicking between the inner element of the title and the container, and the site is super responsive. Like the visual editor automatically updates the panel, and if you notice, pretty much all the panels, they have the same structure and the same configuration. And if you notice, there's this really cool thing about this like kind of like glowing indicator, glowing pointer or something like that. Basically, it represents where you did some edits. So you will immediately know every time you select an element or an object or whatever you have in your page, if you actually edited that element with some custom options. And that's pretty handy because most of the times, a lot of editors, they don't give you any visual hint if you change something, the default style of some object, and you need to click around and try to guess if you actually edit something or not, but this is pretty good. Because this system looks like a software, it doesn't look like a visual editor, I always just click Control S, Command S, just to save the file, because it looks like I'm working on a software, I'm not working on a visual editor. This is kind of a mistake that I do, but always remember to click save once in a while, because I'm not sure this does the auto backup or like the auto save like WordPress does. That would be really handy, having sort of like timed auto save that does everything for us, or having the option to bind Command S to just actually save our progress without clicking save every time. But that's on the side, it's not a big deal. Let's keep going, let's keep styling this thing. Let's add a div block. Let's see how easy it is to create a divider. So I have a div block and it's a display block. Perfect. So if I want this to have a maximum size of 200 pixels, that's perfect. And then I want border top of white. I want a position to be auto. So let's go to margin and padding, margin auto, and right and left auto. That's pretty fantastic. So margin top, let's say, oh, I can increase it also in this way. That's amazing. 80, and apply the bottom 80 as well. And I want the size to be height 1 pixel. Nice, I created a nice divider. So let's create a link, text link. Perfect. Okay, let's say learn more. Oh, actually, let me change. This is pretty amazing so far. That's a pretty tagline, right? Learn more. Okay, if we click on link, we can access the default modal link manager of WordPress. That's pretty handy. Let's say here we have color, I want white, then font, it's grabbing Laura, I guess. Laura, yes, it's grabbing the Laura font automatically. That's pretty fantastic. Let's say 100, decoration none, pixel size, I want this to be 18, and then let's extend this. Letter spacing 2, just 1. Let's create a button. So let's give it a padding of 10 pixel and apply also the bottom, and then 20 pixel left and right. And let's create a border color 1 pixel solid. Perfect. That's a pretty nice and easy button to have. And here we can have larger. Okay, so now let's say I want to create a rollover effect for that. To create some specific things, you could use two things, or you could use CSS. We have the ability to click on the CSS and JavaScript, and we can inject inline style to our element, to the unique specific element that we created, and automatically every element that is generated has a unique ID identifier of the page. Or we can use the built-in option of the editor. If we click on the link, automatically the link, or pretty much every element, I guess, has a state option drop down. So we can click learn more, the link that we just created, create a state, and have a rollover effect. The rollover effect, we want the color, the background color to be white. We want the typography color to be black, and we want the border color to be black, solid, 1 pixel. And let's go to original state, save. And if we go over, oh, look at that. We have an immediate preview of what happens when we have a rollover changes the state. That's pretty fantastic. Okay, let's say that I'm pretty happy with that. I just created just a simple header. Let's test it and let's go back to WordPress. Let's see what happened here. So we don't actually have anything inside our text editor, visual editor. So that means that probably if we deactivate Oxygen app, we're not gonna retain anything of our content, but we're gonna take a look at that later. Let's refresh the homepage that we just generated. Oh, look at that. This is looking pretty good. We have a nice rollover effect, shrink down, no responsive built-in. I guess we could just simply write CSS to make it responsive, but this is pretty good, and it points to the actual right post that I get. Let's inspect the page source and see what's going on here. Okay, now we have a lot of inline injected things, and it's kind of like, that's one of the things that annoys me every time about page builders, that they inject inline stuff on your page, and it's, I guess it's pretty normal. I guess it's one of like the things that you have to do in order to customize properly and override pretty much everything. But here we have a web font loading in JavaScript to load the two Google fonts that I selected. Here we have our, Oxygen OS automatically injects a normalized file inside our theme just to normalize the entire CSS. So it takes care also of this thing. There are a lot of visual editors don't do that. So sometimes you create some unique style that actually doesn't work with your visual editor or your actual website because you have some pre-built style in it that it's interfering, it's creating issues. So having a normalized built-in, it's pretty handy. Then what we have here, what is this? Okay, Oxygen style CSS. It's grabbed through a link, version 4.8, that is the same version of WordPress that I'm running. Oh, what is this? The CSS of all our pages. Oh, this is the image that I decided to use in my header. It's minified and injected inside an external link. And everything is in there. And it's just super minified. It's just one line. That's pretty okay. At least it's not injecting style directly in the page, but it's just visualizing. It's just creating a file that it's calling, and that's pretty good. All the JavaScript stuff are for the admin part. And here we have the generation of my HTML. And one interesting thing is that, I don't know, sometimes happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it's kind of pretty standard. The HTML generated by Oxygen, it's only line. There's no indentation, no separation, nothing. And a lot of things are actually written with an inline style to manipulate the aspect or the look of a specific version of specific things on an SVG or a container, a block. But I guess it's not a big deal. Of course, the main problem with every type of visual editor is that if you deactivate the visual editor, your entire website is going to be pretty much screwed. You need to restart it from scratch, something like that. But in terms of like bloating your HTML, it doesn't look like Oxygen is bloating a lot. It's just like, it's not creating this much noise like other visual editors do. So far so good. It was really easy to create something really stylish and really looking good. And with the option to injecting our own custom CSS inside our page or inside any specific unique element, we can create media queries and we can style or edit, update the style through CSS and JavaScript directly inside the visual editor without actually coding something on the side. Of course, the most handy part of everything is, as I said, the DOM tree. Here we have a visual representation of all the elements, and we can move stuff around really quickly and organize everything. Like here, let's put div block. So this is the separator. Here we can move stuff around. It's pretty easy to manage this thing thanks to these three elements, like the DOM3 like represent all the HTML blocks as a like separated layer. It's pretty cool. And if we like something, for example, I really like this text link, I want to reuse it over and over again in my page, I can click on this little like menu option and click make reusable. I can duplicate it if I want, and automatically it's gonna duplicate it in line, but if we don't want it, we can just select it and remove it, it doesn't matter. But here, the cool part is make it reusable. By making it reusable, we'll get prompt with the request or creating a component name. So in this case, it's gonna be hero button. Say OK, save successfully, that's perfect. So now if we go inside add and we click on reusable, we're gonna have the hero button component that we just created, and that's pretty good. We can click on single if we just wanna add it and just like not touch it or do whatever we want, just like remove it, or we can click it editable and it's gonna be attached, separated from the reusable component, so we can actually edit. Because if we don't make it editable, if we edit the main reusable component, all the other one are gonna follow like cascading, the style is gonna be updated. That's pretty handy, like having sort of like component type of logic and creating sort of like small partials, templates on the fly and make it reusable throughout your entire website or your entire pages. It's really, really handy for like a quick, consistent type of design. But let's keep going. Now what I want to do, I want to create section, the main sections of the page with built-in components and design sets from Oxygen that are pretty handy. First, I want a menu. So let's click on components, header, and let's select a pretty cool one. For example, I like this dark header, fixed background. By default, it's gonna get added at the bottom, but we can just, as I said, quickly just grab, drag it, and drop it on top, and we're gonna have our amazing top menu here. If we open it, we can access the column, the icons, the buttons, or change whatever we want. But let's keep building this page without spending too much time on every single element. And let's see how easy it is to build a pretty cool page with reusable components from Oxygen. Let's add a hero 50/50 area here. So let's keep adding amazing stuff from this list of components. Let's add a stats section. And let's conclude with a pretty neat footer with a built-in image or something like that. Okay, and it added the footer on top, but that's not a problem because we can grab the section and put it just underneath how this is supposed to be. So as you can see, the page navigation, after we added all these elements to generate a pretty good looking page, this looks like professionally made, and it's pretty impressive. But after adding all these things, the page navigation is pretty smooth, and I'm pretty surprised about that because normally, like at this point, a lot of page editor, code editor, or page builders get pretty bloated. But if you try to use the elements around and opening and closing drawers and stuff like that, you can see that especially when the page needs to be moved a little bit, it's not as fluid as it was at the beginning. It's just a little bit heavy. But it's not unusable at all. Like, it's just like you can see that it's struggling a little bit, but I mean, this is a pretty big page with pretty big images and there's a bunch of content in it, so it's pretty impressive that it's still like super smooth and super responsive, and every time you click on something, it's just simply updates pretty much everything. So all these elements here that we have are not made through just like random code or something that is not usable, not editable. Everything is editable. So if we access this section that we just created through a component, we can just simply update the type of information that we have here. So if we want to change the icon, we select the icon, we have the icon set, linear icons, we have the icon type of GIF, but there's a built-in search functionalities for the icon set that we can use, and that's pretty amazing. So if I search rocket, I can have like click and it's gonna be replaced with a rocket. That's pretty amazing. Like all these picture here, oh look at that, this is a beautiful rollover effect. So let me take a look of actually the page. So let's go back in the home page, let's refresh, and we have our home page styled, professionally styled with Oxygen OS. Oh, look at that. The background is fixed. Oh, I can put a background fixed. Let me do it. I want to do it. Let me select this container, open more, background. We have image, tiling position. There you go. No repeat. Resize to core, resize to contain. So this section, my header, I wanted to have the same fixed container, the same fixed image background as the menu here of the menu on top. But you cannot do it through the default background panel because the tiling in position doesn't allow you to have a fixed type of position. But if we click on a previous component and we access CSS and JavaScript, you will notice that here we have an editing and we have some custom style to have like a better font smoothing, a background position center and center, and a background attachment as fixed. So what we can do, we can just simply copy this style and just put it inside our section, and this is gonna be fixed as well. And we have an immediate preview in the page inside the visual editor, and that's pretty fantastic. So because we have this background fixed, I want to remove this page, I want to remove this image, and I want to have a background color of like a dark navy type of color. It's gonna look awful probably, or maybe not. It's gonna look good. I guess black is the easiest choice, right? Yeah, let's go like dark, super dark. That's beautiful, and we can delete this code. We don't need it anymore. Save it. Let's refresh our home page and see what, oh my god, look at that. Look at that, just a parallax effect with a background fixed. That was really easy, just pretty easy. So that's fantastic. Another pretty amazing thing about Oxygen is the ability to actually code custom PHP in it. Yes, that's something that it's possible to do, and it's something that it's kind of hard for other visual editor. I don't know if I saw other visual editor doing this thing, but it's pretty amazing. So let's, for example, let's say that in between these two sections, we want another section to have some custom PHP, just like printing our post, just printing that for now, just to make it simple. We're gonna print the title and the content of our post, which some like simple alignment or some simple columns. So let's do it. Let's just create a section to have an empty section to separate everything. And then inside this section, we're gonna create a code block. Inside the code block, if we access it and we click on more, of course, we're gonna have the same exact methodology, the same exact option. So if we select the section, we can have a background color of just kind of grayish. Let's give it a little bit position, margin padding. Let's give it a padding of 80 pixel, top and bottom. That's perfect. And let's give it an alignment center. Perfect. Selecting the code editor, we have exactly the same options of every other elements. And if you didn't notice already, pretty much all the elements, they have the same panels that you can control everything. But here we have also the code editor. And in the code editor, we can write JavaScript, CSS, and PHP and HTML all together. And every time we edit something, we can see directly in there. So let's write a little bit of PHP to print our post. Shall we? Okay, let's write simply PHP if have posts while have posts the posts and while and if. Of course, right now, if we just print the title here, we are gonna be inside. We're gonna see the title of the homepage because, of course, this is the title on the homepage. But this is pretty amazing because that means that the editor and the content of our homepage are completely separated. So we could have something custom. For example, if I say that I want something like this, I want an H4 tag and then wrap the title around this H4 tag. And we click apply, automatically it's gonna get applied. Everything is there, that's perfect. And then I want the echo div class entry content, H4 class, let's say entry title. And let me close these, echo dash div, and then here we can print the content. Of course, right now we're not gonna see anything here, but if we save this, we go back to WordPress and we write whatever content we want. Like this is an example of the home page content. We updated by using the default built-in visual editor, text editor of WordPress. We're not gonna override whatever we did with Oxygen app. That's something really powerful and really amazing, because sometimes other visual editor plugins, they inject everything that they do, they inject it inside the content, the actual content of the post or the page. Oxygen keeps everything separated, so you can still write your content, and you can still write, even if I write something wrong, is example, not example with a Z. Even if you write your content in regular visual editor or WordPress, it's not going to override whatever it's inside Oxygen, and you can live with both. So if we reopen again the visual editor, because we have the code block that we're printing the title and the content of the page, look what we have here. On page, this is an example of the content. And because we assign classes to this, we can open the code editor and say that our entry title has a font size of 30 pixel. Look at that. I don't even need to save anything, automatically updates, and it's so handy. Font weight 100, entry content has a font size of 18 pixels. There you go. Apply. I'm really impressed about this, especially the ability to write your own PHP. So you could potentially code an entire WordPress website without actually never opening a code editor. I know that will sound kind of like, oh, super weird for someone, but can you imagine like how handy it would be to code something on the fly and see everything directly inside your browser? Like, what happens here? You could use these to prototype something super quickly and make it look directly in the website of a client, and just do everything on the fly, code with him and say, hey, what do you think about that? Okay, let's change it quickly and update the page. That's it, without coding on your own, pushing on an FTP server and updating the files and all this kind of stuff. You can do everything in line. And because it accepts PHP, basically it accepts everything. You could use the WP query to customize all the content that you want in a specific page. You can inject print shortcode, you can inject widgets, you can create custom post types, you can include custom meta boxes directly in there. Something that other visual editors don't have, simply don't have the option. And as I said, because this Oxygen visual editor doesn't interfere with your actual content, the content of the post, you could potentially use another visual editor to customize the look of a specific section inside your page. That's pretty impressive. So let's save it. Let's go back in our home page. Let's refresh. Let's see how it looks. The page looks pretty darn good, and I'm pretty impressed by the quality of the components, or like the built-in elements that you can use. But let's take a look, as usual, at the source code, and I don't know, we're gonna be disappointed. This looks pretty normal, pretty okay. Let's see what type of code was generated from our custom block. So here everything gets pretty normal. We have some inline style for the font awesome icons, for phone, Twitter, Facebook, like all the components that we injected with those icons. Here we have the same stuff. Everything is printed in line. There's no separation in HTML structure, and everything it's kind of, I mean, it's okay. Like, you will never actually touch this part, but it would be nice to have like the source code, like your HTML, generated in a way that it looks readable also for like human eyes, for the source code, for everything. So let's analyze where is our, this is an example of the page content. Where is it? It's here. So everything gets generated in line. Also the code block, our entry title, entry content, everything is in line. So nothing to say about this. What is this? XML version. Okay, scripts. And if we search for entry title, yes, it's here. So the code that we generated inline inside a code block gets printed inline with some style stuff. I guess that's like everyone's doing. Okay, as a last test that I want to do, I want to deactivate Oxygen OS and see what happens with our stuff. So if we access Oxygen, or actually we access the plugins, and go install plugins, We deactivate 1, 2, 3, and bulk action, deactivate, apply. See what happened to our homepage. Let's refresh. It rolls back to the default theme that we had. In my case, we had the 2017, the last theme released by WordPress, and then here we have the homepage. This is an example of the homepage, pretty standard. Nothing seems to be broken. Usually when you deactivate a code editor like visual editor that does all these kind of heavy things, something gets broken. But let's see what happens if we reactivate the plugin again. Apply, activate it. Let's refresh the homepage without doing anything. Everything is still there. That it's pretty amazing, that it's pretty good. So even if you deactivate your plugins or your plugins gets accidentally deactivated, nothing is gonna break. So that's pretty good. So we are at the conclusion of our overview. Of course, I just scrubbed the surface of Oxygen. I didn't show you a lot of different things that you can do. It's a pretty amazing piece of software, a pretty amazing integration of WordPress because it can do a lot of things. It's really responsive, it's really quick. I didn't experience any bug. Usually for a brand new visual editor, there are a lot of quirky bugs, something doesn't work. And I also got a prompt when I started using it with Firefox saying, hey, you should use this with Google Chrome because we recommended using it with Google Chrome, but I didn't have any issue, as you can see, with Firefox. It will run pretty smoothly, and I was really impressed with that. Now for my final thoughts. So if you're still here and you didn't just already close the video, just thank you so much. I know it was kind of like a long overview, but I wanted to show you all the things that I've been using, and I think they're really worth it about Oxygen. I think this is a new type of approach of WordPress, and I think it's kind of a good direction because one thing that I always hated about visual editor is that they inject all the stuff that you do inside the content of your post. So when you deactivate the visual editor, your entire site is broken. Basically, you toss it in the garbage and you need to restart from scratch. Instead, if you deactivate Oxygen, of course, you're gonna lose all the things that you generated with Oxygen, but at least your website is not broken. All your posts and pages are still there, and you're not gonna destroy the visual look of your website. You can just simply quickly activate another theme and everything is gonna look good. So this approach of overriding the entire theme and managing stuff outside the scope of the content editor of WordPress, it's pretty good. The usual things that I don't like about visual editors, and these are the same things that Oxygen app is doing, is that the generated code, it's really a mess. Of course, it doesn't really matter for the browser, it doesn't really matter for pretty much any robot or like any machine that is reading your website, but the generated code is super messy. Like everything is in line, you have some CSS that it's inside a file, other CSS is inside like inline style, in style tags. You have some scripts that are inside a JavaScript, some script that just printed inline with like script, JavaScript, code blocks. And if you decide to use Oxygen for your entire website, your pages will kind of be bloated. I think that's why they suggest to use a CDN, not always to make Oxygen pretty quick and responsive when you use it. For example, WP Cache has the ability to grab dynamically all your JavaScript files, minify them and smash it all together into one single file instead of having many things loading all over the place and all this kind of stuff. I mean, as usual, as a developer, I don't like seeing messy code. But I understand that as a front-end designer or as a designer that needs to create a WordPress website with a visual editor, Oxygen app is currently one of the best solutions out there if you want to keep maintaining and looking and using your own WordPress installation. If you don't want to use like another third-party application or third-party visual website to build your website, at least you're still inside WordPress, so you retain all the content and all the generated code. You can always do whatever you want with it without just like leaving the code in a third party. So definitely I suggest you to try Oxygen OS. Like it costs $99 to buy it, and you can see why it's a bit pricey, but when you start using it, you can see how the developers and designers spend, how much time they spend to make this app look and act like it does right now. It's really deep, it's connected, thoroughly connected to pretty much every aspect of WordPress. You can integrate plugins, you can integrate widgets, you can create your own custom PHP, access pretty much every code from the codex of WordPress. So that's pretty impressive from that point of view. If you want to try it, you should definitely do it. They have a live site installation where you can generate a temporarily like WordPress installation with a bunch of fake content, and you can give it a try. Just test it, using it, and let me know what you think. Like personally, I'm really impressed from the technical point of view. Like kudos to the developers. They did an amazing job, but from a professional point of view, as like a WordPress developer, I don't think I would use it in a production-ready website. I 100% would use it for fast prototyping, testing, or if the client wants to, hey, can you show me super quickly how this looks? Instead of coding something for myself, I can quickly generate a pretty much finalized version of the website in few minutes thanks to Oxygen app. And that's the perfect case scenario for this app, in my opinion. But what do you think? Give it a try. It's completely free if you want to do it on their website. Go to oxygenapp.com. You can find the link in the description below, of course. And as usual, give it a thumbs up to this video or thumbs down if you don't like this sponsored review. But do you agree with me? Did you try it? Do you find it bloated? Do you find it really helpful? Would you use it in a production-ready environment? Just write a comment and we'll try to answer everyone. Before concluding, I want to thank again the creators, the developers of Oxygen app for the opportunity of testing this amazing application that it's really pushing the boundaries of like visual editor. Is that an actual like website builder or is it just a WordPress plugin? I don't know. It's like I feel like the line is really thin here. We're just stepping in different boundaries, in different aspects of this type of development environment. And that feels kind of pretty exciting, right? Okay, thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.